When my daughter-in-law texted me to wear beige and keep my mouth shut, I didn't argue. I just took my card off the tab, locked the connecting door, and bought a royal blue silk dress for the dinner she thought I was bankrolling. Wear beige and stay quiet. Those 6 words blinked on my phone screen, and they didn't come from a stranger, they came from my daughter-in-law. Vanessa. It was Thursday morning, a day that was supposed to be a celebration. My son, Julian, had just landed a massive promotion to regional director at his firm after years of burning the midnight oil. To mark the milestone, a lavish dinner was scheduled for Saturday night at a high-end steakhouse in downtown Chicago. Vanessa had taken it upon herself to organize everything. What she conveniently forgot, however, was a minor detail. I was the one footer-rigged the bill. Before I could even process the text, my phone buzzed again. Vanessa had attached a PDF. When I opened it, I could hardly believe my eyes. It was a literal itinerary for the evening, complete with a strict color palette, hence the washed-out beige, a rigid seating chart, placing me at the very end of the table, and a bulleted list of topics I was explicitly banned from bringing up. My past, my career as a senior accountant, even our family history were deemed off-limits. She wanted to present a flawless, modern facade to Julian's new bosses, and apparently, I didn't fit the brand. I didn't feel like crying or screaming. At my age, you learn that emotional outbursts are just a waste of energy. Instead, I quietly set my phone on the kitchen island and looked out at my backyard. Vanessa took me for a naive, lonely widow she could push around. She had no idea that I had already personally guaranteed every single dime of that evening. I took a deep breath and decided right then and there to rewrite the rules of her little game, to understand how Vanessa got this bold. You have to look at the last 2 years. Ever since she married Julian, she had been systematically trying to take the reins of my son's life and, by extension, my property. I live in a beautiful, historic duplex just outside Chicago. I live in one half and let Julian and Vanessa stay in the other half completely rent-free so they could stack their savings for a down payment on a house of their own. I thought I was doing them a favor, but generosity is often mistaken for weakness. Vanessa quickly started treating my home like a free extension of her own space. She would walk right through the connecting interior door without knocking, borrow tools without asking, and casually drop off their laundry expecting me to handle it over the weekend. Julian just looked the other way. He has always been conflict-averse, the kind of guy who buries his head in the sand rather than set hard boundaries with his wife. Whenever I gently brought it up, he'd deflect or make excuses about how stressed she was at work. So, I bit my tongue to keep the peace. But that text about the promotion dinner was a line in the sand. It showed me in black and white exactly how little she respected me. To her, I was just a walking ATM in the background, someone to be shoved into a closet when company arrived. I sat down at my desk, took a sip of my coffee, and pulled out the receipts and confirmations from the past few weeks. It was time to show Vanessa who actually held the purse strings. My first move wasn't to call Vanessa and lose my temper. Instead, I typed a simple, one-word reply, understood. No emojis, no pushback. I wanted her completely secure in her false sense of control. The moment I hit send, I called the restaurant. It was an exclusive spot where reservations had to be locked in months in advance. I had already wired a $2,500 deposit from my personal account 3 weeks ago, and my credit card was on file for the remaining balance. I asked to speak directly with the general manager, Mr. Harrison, whom I had coordinated with initially. In a calm, polite voice, I informed him that there had been a change of plans for Saturday night. I instructed him to remove my credit card from the reservation and transfer the booking entirely into my son's name. As for the $2,500 deposit, I requested it be converted into a gift card solely under my name for future use. Mr. Harrison was a professional. He didn't ask a single prying question and promptly emailed me the confirmation. Next. I walked down the hallway to the connecting door between our units. I shut it firmly, turned the deadbolt, pulled the key out, and slipped it into my pocket. Effective immediately. The free passageway was closed. If Vanessa and Julian wanted to see me, they would have to walk around to the front porch and ring the doorbell like regular guests. It was a small but tangible boundary to reclaim my sanctuary. As I held the key, I wondered how long it would take them to notice. It took exactly 4 hours. Thursday afternoon, I heard the handle of the connecting door rattle violently from the other side. When the door didn't budge, there was a brief pause, followed by an impatient, heavy knock. I didn't answer. Instead, I walked into my kitchen and calmly watered my indoor plants. A moment later, my phone vibrated. Vanessa was calling. I let it ring 3 times before picking up. "Hey, Evelyn, why is the hallway door locked? I was trying to grab your large roasting pan." Her voice came through the speaker, laced with irritation. "I locked it because I've decided I need a bit more privacy moving forward," I replied evenly, keeping my tone entirely neutral. There was dead silence on the other end. She clearly hadn't anticipated me standing my ground so matter-of-factly. "But we've always shared everything," she stammered, her tone shifting to defensive. "Times change. Vanessa," I said smoothly, "if you ever need the roasting pan, you're welcome to walk around and ring the front bell tomorrow when I'm home. I have to run some errands now. So I'll let you go." I didn't wait for a response before hanging up. Reclaiming my space felt incredibly liberating, but that was only the groundwork. Friday was right around the corner, and I had a few more arrangements to make that would completely shake the foundation of her weekend plans. On Friday morning, I drove down to my local bank branch. Ever since my husband passed, I had managed our estate with meticulous care. I had been giving Julian a substantial monthly allowance to help them enjoy a comfortable lifestyle while they saved. On top of that, I maintained a college fund for my future grandchildren, which I funded entirely out of pocket. I sat down with my longtime financial advisor and restructured everything. I canceled the monthly transfer to Julian, effective immediately. It wasn't an act of malice. It was a matter of logic. If I was going to be invisible to them, my financial support was going to be invisible, too. My advisor processed the changes without a word. When I walked out of the bank into the crisp autumn air, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders that I hadn't realized I was carrying. I was officially retiring from being the family safety net. On the way home, I passed a boutique downtown. Hanging in the window was a breathtaking, vibrant royal blue silk dress. It was the exact antithesis of the dreary, muted beige Vanessa had ordered me to wear. I walked inside, tried it on, and bought it on the spot without looking at the price tag. I paired it with an elegant silver necklace. I was going to show up on Saturday night, but I was going to show up entirely on my own terms. I couldn't wait to see the look on Julian's face. Dear Quiet Revenge community, many of you have been with us through stories of heartbreak, courage, family conflict, and hard-earned justice. We are deeply grateful for your time, comments, and support. We also believe in being transparent. AI tools may help with certain parts of the creative process, but every story is carefully reviewed, edited, and produced by our team to ensure quality and authenticity. At the moment, our channel is not receiving YouTube monetization. If you would like to help us continue creating new stories, please consider supporting Quiet Revenge with the price of a small cup of coffee. Patreon, https://www.patreon.com/Quiet Revenge Family. Coffee, https://go-fi.com/history family. PayPal, https://www.paypal.com/paypalme/kanhuangmin. Thank you for being part of this thoughtful and caring community. Saturday night arrived at exactly 8 o'clock. I walked into the steakhouse, dressed in the royal blue silk with my hair swept up in a classic updo. I felt an overwhelming sense of calm. Julian, Vanessa, and 3 of the top executives from his company were already seated at a large, beautifully set table in the private dining alcove. The second Vanessa caught sight of me. The practiced smile froze instantly on her face. I completely ignored her seating chart at the far end of the table. Instead, I walked straight up to Julian's CEO, Dr. Sterling, whom I had briefly met at a corporate gala a year ago. "Good evening, Dr. Sterling. Wonderful to see you again," I said, my voice steady and warm as I extended my hand. He stood up politely, greeting me with genuine enthusiasm. "Evelyn, what a wonderful surprise. Please, join us right here," he said, gesturing to the vacant seat right next to him. Vanessa stared at me, her eyes wide with sheer panic, her cheeks flushed crimson. But with the executives watching, she couldn't make a scene. She tried to shoot me a burning, warning glare. But I looked right through her. Julian looked incredibly anxious, shifting uncomfortably in his chair. Dinner was served, and the conversation flowed effortlessly. I found myself in a delightful discussion with Dr. Sterling about local market trends, while Vanessa sat in stunned silence, barely touching her wine. During the main course, Vanessa made several passive-aggressive attempts to hijack the conversation and push me out of the loop. Evelyn loves talking about the old days, but corporate structures are just so vastly different now. She chimed in with a forced, high-pitched laugh after I shared an insight on budget forecasting. Dr. Sterling countered her immediately, shaking his head. "Actually, Vanessa, the fundamentals of financial health never change. Your mother has an incredibly sharp mind." Julian just nodded quietly, staring down at his ribeye. He didn't have the courage to contradict his wife, but he certainly didn't have the nerve to disagree with his CEO. I thoroughly enjoyed my meal. Playing my part to perfection, I was polite, articulate, and completely detached from Vanessa. I didn't drop a single hint about her text or her dress code. My presence in that royal blue dress spoke volumes all on its own. Vanessa, likely assuming she would still walk away victorious since the evening was a massive win for Julian's career, seemed to relax slightly. She smiled as she ate her dessert, basking in the reflected glow of the executive's praise. She had absolutely no idea that the real climax of the evening was approaching, and that a harsh reality check was waiting for her the moment the bill arrived. As the dinner wrapped up, Dr. Sterling thanked Julian for the wonderful evening and commended the choice of venue. Vanessa beamed with pride and signaled the waiter for the check. "We'll take care of everything, of course," she announced magnanimously to the table. The waiter nodded and brought over the leather presenter. However, instead of handing it to Vanessa. He placed it squarely in front of Julian. Per the updated reservation instructions, Julian opened the folder, took one look at the total, which came out to nearly $3,500 with wine and gratuity, and confidently slid his American Express card into the slot. He handed it back to the waiter. A few minutes later, the waiter returned, looking genuinely apologetic. "I'm sorry, Mr. King, but the transaction was declined. It seems to have exceeded the daily limit." Julian's face turned bright red. He hurriedly pulled out a second card. But that one failed. Too. Vanessa's face went entirely pale. Vanessa shot a frantic, desperate look in my direction. She clearly expected me to do what I had always done: open my purse, hand over my card, and bail them out. Instead, I sat back, took a slow sip of my espresso, and didn't move a muscle. "Mom," Julian whispered, his voice cracking slightly so the bosses wouldn't overhear. "Is there something wrong with the account?" I looked at him calmly. "I wouldn't know about your account. Sweetie, mine is doing just fine." I replied softly. The tension at the table became agonizingly awkward. Dr. Sterling and the other executives tactfully looked away, pretending to check their phones, but the strain was palpable. Vanessa leaned across the table and hissed under her breath, "Evelyn, stop playing games. You said you were covering this. Just pay the bill." I met her gaze with absolute serenity. "I only pay for guests who treat me with respect." Vanessa. Since I was supposed to sit at the end of the table in beige and keep quiet, I'm not really here in that exact moment. The pieces clicked together for Julian. He remembered his wife's texts and realized I had pulled the plug. Without saying another word, he stood up and walked over to the front host stand with the waiter to sort out the mess with his bank. Vanessa sat frozen, completely mortified. The perfect, sophisticated facade she had spent weeks orchestrating had completely unraveled right in front of the people who held her husband's career in their hands. I stood up gracefully, picked up my clutch, and bid a warm farewell to Dr. Sterling and the colleagues. "It was an absolute pleasure. Have a wonderful rest of your evening," I said smoothly. I looked at Vanessa one last time, gave her a small, knowing smile, and walked out of the restaurant without looking back. As I stepped into my Uber, a profound sense of peace washed over me. They had learned a valuable lesson. Respect isn't something you can budget for. The next morning, the house was beautifully, blissfully quiet. No footsteps echoing through the hallway. No one rattling the door handle. Around noon, there was a soft knock at my front door. I opened it to find Julian. He looked exhausted, with dark circles under his eyes from what was clearly a sleepless night. He stood on the porch, unable to look me in the eye. "Mom, I am so sorry. I had no idea what Vanessa texted you. We had to drain our entire emergency savings last night to clear that tab." "That's between you and your wife, Julian," I said calmly, keeping myself framed in the doorway without inviting him in. "I have subsidized your comfort for years, only to be treated like an embarrassing chore by the woman you married. That ends now." He nodded slowly, defeated. He didn't ask for a handout, and I didn't offer a compromise. There were no tears, just accountability. The allowance stayed canceled, and the connecting door stayed locked. In the weeks that followed, I felt like a new woman. I finally booked that trip to Italy I'd been putting off for years and filled my schedule with friends who actually valued my company. Julian and Vanessa had to learn how to stand on their own 2 feet and balance their own ledger. Vanessa avoids me entirely now, which suits me just fine. I drew my lines, reclaimed my life, and proved that I am never to be underestimated. Dear, quiet, revenge community, many of you have been with us through stories of heartbreak, courage, family conflict, and hard-earned justice. We are deeply grateful for your time, comments, and support. We also believe in being transparent. AI tools may help with certain parts of the creative process, but every story is carefully reviewed, edited, and produced by our team to ensure quality and authenticity. At the moment, our channel is not receiving YouTube monetization. If you would like to help us continue creating new stories, please consider supporting Quiet Revenge with the price of a small cup of coffee. Patreon https://www.patreon.com/quietrevengemafamily Ko-fi https://ko-fi.com/the story family PayPal https://www.paypal.com/paypalme/kanhuangmin. Thank you for being part of this thoughtful and caring community.